Yeah, well, moving over to another matter now. Last week, the president of the African Development Group, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, made a case for Nigerian youths, placing the population of under 30s at about 70% of the 206 million population of Nigeria. Dr. Adesina says that it's time to start creating youth-based assets in Africa. We have Mr. Michael Adeleye. He is a human capital consultant and the CEO of Crystal Blend Group to explain to us what he understands from that. Good morning, Mr. Adeleye, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So when Dr. Adesina says creating youth-based assets, what does that mean?
Obviously, it means one or two things. As we can tell at the moment, all our youths are not fully engaged. You find them practically focusing on education. And what happens after the education, there is no plan B for them. So if we could start in talking about the apprenticeship scheme, whereby you should be able to engage students while they're still in education on how to begin to gain practical experience while they're on holidays or have time off schools. I can't imagine when someone goes to school and spends 4 years in university, at the end of the education, they have no iota of work experience or practical work experience on their resume. That is uncalled for. I think it should be institutionalized, whereby from day one they start the education, they should begin to engage them in working with the employer. You go to an employer, there should be a little bit of incentive being given to them that actually encourages them to actually begin to
But doesn't the youth service help with that?
That's another ball game. I've actually been advocating for this for a very long time. I think the whole NYSC should be restructured or overhauled. I see no reason why, at this point in time where our economy needs skills to be able to plug into all the jobs available, why should the military be the head or the helm of the NYSC? It should be captain of industries. It should be people in the private sector who actually understand what the economy needs. So when people come in there at the end of the education to serve, we should be able to identify what did you study, what did you need, what practical experience do you need, the industry out there, where do we send you to, not just gather them in there and at the end of the whole 1 year, it becomes wasteful.
Mm-hmm. So when we look at our exits from recession, we see that ICT played a major role. Yes, I mean, it contributed 14.70%.
Yeah.
And it's like the new normal now. With COVID, everything is going virtual and all that. So don't you think that this is where the youth can be pushed to? I mean, a lot of them already are geniuses. When you talk to them, you know, they can write programs, they are good with softwares. Shouldn't there be a way to push them into this area that is opening up?
Good question. Yeah. But my question is, who is actually aiding those avenues? Now, all these guys that you find, all these tech guys who are genius, they actually got to this stage by themselves. What is the investment of the government in engaging them to train them, investing in human capital development? The government should actually start to engage in ICT telecommunication companies to be able to spend money, invest in training of all this our youth. I mean, if you look at the background of all these guys who are up there, I mean, our youth in there, it's not that somebody pump money into that industry or into their hands. They actually strive by themselves to get in there. So what do you think is going to happen if the government actually invested or is investing into that sector? It's going to be a boom. Look at India, for example. I mean, talking about technology in India, talking about medicine in India, healthcare in India, the government actually have huge investment in that sector. That's why you have the population of that magnitude coming up to actually boost up the economy. That's what the government should be doing now.
So instead of spending on subsidies, we should be directing those funds to our
into human capital development. And also, the government should think about something. I mean, the microeconomy of any country is the base of any development. Now, if the government don't start to engage the private sector, let's say, for example, the government says, if you take on, look at the percentage of unemployment, youth unemployment in this country. If the government says, okay, we need to face this head on, every employer, every private sector in the country, if you begin to engage these people to have practical experience, maybe a 6 months training apprenticeship scheme with you, we will give an incentive. Let it be a win-win situation. Because the point is, no employer will not just put their money into something that's going to give them benefit, but the government has to get engaged with them. If you say to me, I'm going to give you your corporation tax reduction if you take on XYZ number of people, it's going to encourage me. If you tell me, get in 6 or 10 people into your company, we're going to make sure that we pay the stipend for them. You train them, we pay them the stipend. So it's going to begin to make people to understand, okay, now the government is participating, let's just do our own bit as well. So at the end of the 6 months apprenticeship scheme with an employer, there's every tendency that they're going to have a gain for the employment. Even if they have a gain for employment, they will be able to write in their CV, I've got this practical experience.
Is it possible to do this without the government? Because already it seems the government is really overwhelmed. I mean, we're talking of how much they're paying for subsidy, ensuring that, you know, the petroleum products come into the country and other. Is it possible to do it without the government?
It is possible. Like I said earlier, you have to engage the private sector as well. The government, as we speak, they have various programs paying subsidy, this to that, to that. If there's a right policy in place, it will work out. The governments have no business in doing business. They have to bring a policy that they bring in the private sector to actually make sure this works. The private sector, they ain't going to say, okay, I have a chunk to throw to the public. They're going to do that. But the government participants are like, let's work together. I'm going to put in XYZ amount of money. You also bring some amount of money to make it work. It will work. So what I'm saying in essence is, let the government begin to engage the private sector. You have a lot of money being thrown out on subsidy to everywhere, but it is not bringing out the result that we actually need.
Okay, well, there are a lot of programs and initiatives for skills acquisition, empowerment, even the 774,000 jobs by the federal government. Are these making any impact?
You already knew what's going on. I mean, there's been rigmarole of all this questioning coming from the minister, from local governments, from politicians. Look, it's a good policy, but the implementation, it's not working. Why? Okay, the government should say, okay, this is what we're going to give us, 774,000 opportunities. Now, who do they engage? The public or the private sector? These things have been worked within themselves. Why didn't you throw it to the public? Let every local authority, okay, like there was a program that we used to have then, the UN program, right? The government brought out the policy, but the private sector, the generality of the population, got engaged. You become a stakeholder. So I can go in there, put in my information. An employer from anywhere could go in there and go search for someone who actually fits into his or her employment or his organization. What happens from there, the government pick it up and say, okay, if you're taking this, we pay you the stipends. And it's working. But when you have a policy and you're in control of the policy by yourself, you have no business in doing that. Bring it out, throw it to the public, bring in a lot of stakeholders, bring in captain of interest, bring in the public, bring the students, everybody. So we all participate. Then it becomes transparent.
But are the youths themselves ready for this? Are they maximizing the opportunities? Because some people have said the youths of these days actually are looking for easy way out. Easy money, you know, quick money, and they don't really want to pay the price. So are the youths ready? And we do have some, I mean, going by the age range, some youth in leadership position. Are they doing well enough to encourage more youths to be allowed into those positions?
Good question. If you don't, you know, there's a saying that goes, you could lead a horse to the river, but you can't force
it to drink.
Right? Now, if you take me to the river and I don't know the advantage of drinking that water, I'm not going to drink it. The opportunity, look, you just mentioned earlier that the tech industry is booming by the youth. They did this by themselves. They found the opportunity. Okay? Now, if we give them the leeway to come in, to be part of this, they will do so. I do what we call mentoring scheme. I mentor hundreds of youth on a regular basis on how to be able to go into gainful employment. And I tell people, going to university is not for everyone. I've said this time and time over again to the government. Everybody have no solution. The youth have no solution now. That's why everybody puts their head going into university, right? University is not for everyone. What happened to our technical education? We used to have this in many years ago, decades ago, whereby you have people studying tiling, plumbing, electrician, and so on and so forth. Do you know how many millions will have been able to go through that channel and become skilled worker? If you have a construction company now, you can't get a Nigerian tiler. You have to go to the Republic of Benin to go and get in those professionals. If you want to look for electrician, if you want to look for plumbers, if you want to look for automobile engineers, you can't get them here. Because going to your question, if they have the open ground, they just have the open ground, they will go into it. Give them the opportunity. Look at what's happening to agriculture as we speak. Even if you don't study agriculture, you have the opportunity. Everyone's going there. Give them that leeway. They will go in there.
All right. Before we let you go, what mindset should the youths have at this point?
I think it's a win-win situation, like I always tell my mentees. No pain, no gain. Now, you've missed out on the opportunity to go have that gainful practical experience while you're studying. At the moment, if I were them, I can guarantee you, if 1 million youth, as we speak, write to all employers and say to them, please, I want to have an experience with you, write an application for 6 months. By the end of that 6 months, majority of them will have the opportunity to have different employment.
All right, Mr. Lapa, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
And we know the youths are listening and they will take advantage of it. Now we'll just take a short break. When we come back, commodities markets.
Yes, sir.